Welcome, research question. This is probably one of the most longest lessons in this course and probably the most important lesson in this course, research question. So let's start with this quote from the answer you get depend on the questions you ask. So if you ask it like shallow, it will probably not be meaningful. So it is about the research questions. There are two ways of doing research. So an unexperienced researcher or somebody who's just starting, what he will do or what she will do, they will go, they will collect data and collect data and collect data and then maybe analyze the data, and then after they collect and analyze the data, they will just say, okay, so what? What are we doing? What exactly do we want from this data? And what does this data mean? Yeah, that's one way of doing research. The other way of doing research, collecting data, and you keep doing your research and your analysis to refine and sharpen this question until like your question is till you have a good and solid research question, and then you start to do your research like to answer this question. Yeah. One time uh, I wrote like a whole manuscript without running, not everything, like, but I will tell you what, without running a single simulation. The research questions, this is kind of like your roadmap of what you want to do, because I had a clear research question, and since I have a clear research question, I know how my title would look like. I know what introduction I need to write in order to actually this that would lead to this research question. And then I know to answer this research question, this is the method that I need to follow. So I wrote it down. And from this method, this is what I'm expecting. These are the expected results. So I started right the results section. Okay, I'm expecting to get like this is the data that I will get, and I will make like this figure here, and I will analyze it this way. I don't know exactly like the data, what would be the result. I don't know this yet, but I know what I'm expecting to get. So you prepare your result section, yeah, and then the conclusion. That's something you don't know. You know part of it, like the summary of what you did, but like what are the results, we still don't know. So I wrote like not all the manuscript, but big part of the manuscript, just because I have a clear research question and I know what to do. Versus you just go run, I don't know, like all these simulations that are computationally expensive, they cost a lot of money, they cost a lot of time, and then after this you try to make sense of it and see, okay, what am I trying to do? Yeah. So the research outcome will depend heavily on your research question and how you uh, come up with like a meaningful research question. So that's what we will like in this lesson. Basically, what we will learn. Let's see what we will learn. So you will identify like the factor before you have a research question. You need to have a research topic. So we will start this process from the very beginning, like how to what are the key factors to consider when selecting an impactful like research topic and accordingly a research problem. Yeah. So basically, you will learn like some 8 key factors that you want to know, and that basically this lesson is also very important for homework. Well, so you need to carefully understand and pay attention to this lesson. So basically, you will understand the whole process, starting from a research topic, you narrow it down to a research problem, and then you narrow it down to a research question. You will appreciate the importance of having a clear research question to guide your research process. By the end of this video, hopefully I will be able to convince you why a research question is important and you don't just go do research. But before you do anything, you should have a clear research question. Is this research question fixed? No, it will be refined as the research goes on. That's fine, but you need to start with something. Yeah. Refine your research topic to develop a clear research questions that guide your research. Like that's exactly what I was telling you. Like you keep refining until you have a solid, crisp, and strong research question. So let's just get started. Yeah. So uh, so here. This would be basically how uh, you go through the process. Yeah, so you start with a research topic. That's a large topic, and from this research topic, like this large topic, something you're interested in, yeah, you come up with a research problem, part of this large topic, and based on this research problem, you come up with a research question, and then you define your research objective. Like to answer this question one or more, like it does not necessarily need to be one question, it could be one, two, three, or whatever. You put like the objective, like I will be this is like by answering these questions, these are like my research objectives and tasks that I will be performing to answer this research question. So let's look at example. Yeah, groundwater quality in rural area. That's a large topic. So I'm interested in groundwater quality in rural areas such as South West Florida, for example. So we have like in Immokalee, we grow big percentage of the winter tomato like in the USA. That's like for all the USA. So that's but that causes some water quality issue in this rural area. But okay, which part of this water quality are we looking for? So here, basically, the parts that we want to look for, like our research problem, as part of this like big topic would be pesticide. We specifically want to look at pesticide, nutrient fate, and transport. So we basically want to look at it in a place like Immokalee where you have this shallow groundwater. Yeah, so you have like these two are tightly coupled. Yeah. Okay. So what is my research question? What exactly do I need to do? So my research question would be I want to conduct like a model experiment to evaluate the pest management practice for pesticide and nutrients. So basically what I will do, I will go to the field, I will put some instrument, I will collect a lot of data. I will basically want to do an experiment, not in the lab, but in the field. So I will deploy all my instrument in the field, like a weather station, like water quality sensors, like lot of grab samples like uh, hydrogeophysics, like for example, we do electrical resistivity tomography to understand the subsurface, flow measurement, tracer tests. So I will collect like this data and then I will model it. So I will like get this data, create a model for this site and use this model to evaluate the best management practice. So basically, now I have a data, and based on this data, I will say, okay, now if I change it this, how will this affect the water quality? If I will reduce this by half, how will this affect the water quality? If I will improve this, how will this affect the water quality? So you create some scenarios to come up with so here my research question. What's my research question is that I simply it's just it's not even a question, it's something what I want to do. I want to uh, do a model experiment to evaluate best management practice, like collect data, model this data, and create scenario for this model to evaluate the best management practice. That's my research question. So to achieve this research objective, what are like question to answer this question? What are the research objective? Again, as I said, field data collection, model development, best management practice scenario analysis. Then I answered my question and I was able to develop these best to identify this base management practice based on this like model experiment that I conducted. Yeah, here's another. Can we look at another topic? Another example, yeah. Uh, I working in a company or whatever, and I want, my main concern is project performance and delay. I want to study, for example, like I'm doing thesis or something like this, and I want to study like inefficient progress monitoring. Like, what is the effect of inefficient progress monitoring on larger projects? So if I have a larger project, yeah. So the big topic is project performance and details. The research problem is that I want to see what is the impact of inefficient progress monitoring on large project. But that's a big research problem. What is my research question? How can emerging technology like drones improve the accuracy and efficiency of monitoring construction projects? So now I have a specific research question. It, how can managing technology, I specified this technology like drone, improve the accuracy and efficiency. So I'm looking at two things. I'm looking at accuracy and I'm looking at efficiency. So I'm looking not just at rates, but also accuracy of monitoring construction project. Well, how to answer this question? Quantify the time and cost of traditional monitoring methods. Yeah, that would be my control. Develop and implement drone-based monitoring workflow. So I have like the traditional, that's like my control, and that's my treatment. Yeah, so I have two, and then compare the method for accuracy, time, and cost. So I compare like traditional monitoring method, and I compare the drone-based monitoring workflow, and I will compare them for accuracy, time, and cost. Yeah, then I answered my question. Okay, so that's basically what you will be doing in this course. In this course, in homework one, what I want you to do is that I want you to identify like a research topic and a research problem, and start by going to like a research question, a very rudimentary one, a very basic one, yeah, which you will refine in homework 2 and which you will refine in homework 3, and which you will and that would be like, so by the, so that's like, so in homework 1 you will do like this up till here, a rudimentary one, a very basic one, like you'll do this one, you'll do this one, a very basic one. In homework 2 you will refine this one, in homework 3 you will finalize this work. Again, homework 1 is graded, that would be part of your grade. Homework 2 and 3, this are not graded. Yeah. So keep this in mind. This will not be part of your grade, but that would be basically the checkpoints that you will have with your supervisor. So you will have this material. So I'm just repeating. So that will be checkpoints that you will be for, so that so that you know that you are on track, and then you can follow up with your research supervisor. Yeah. Okay. Uh, so now what are the factors to consider when you like select like a research problem or like a research question? Okay, so these are 8 factors. I will go through them one by one. Okay, select an impactful topic to maximize impact and relevance. So let me tell you this. If you are doing like your project or if you are doing your thesis, you will spend time. The objective of this project and the objective of this thesis is that you learn the research method. Yes? Now, listen very carefully. You can learn this research method while working on something not useful, and you will learn the research method, but you will lose motivation because what you are working on is not useful, it's not important, it's not impactful. Or you can learn this research method and you implemented it like through implementing it in your project or your thesis while working on something that is important, that is significant, that is impactful. So listen, this is just, listen carefully to what I will say now. This is just a general lesson for you in life. Don't waste your time on something that is not important, that's not worth of your time. So try to put your time, the limited time that you have, on something that's useful and important. And that's why you need to strategically and carefully select uh, 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 strategically and carefully select your research topic and your research problem through working as I explained before in lesson one. So like watch lesson one, that's very important, yeah. But here, the main take-home message that I want you to do: don't spend your time on something that's not important. If what you're doing is important, that will give you motivation and that will help you uh, uh, to move like make you more happy with what you're doing and more satisfied with what you're doing. Okay. So writing is seen as an exercise of learning how to conduct meaningful research. Selecting a significant topic allow you to contribute to a field meaningfully and ensure your research is impactful and relevant. Yeah. So again, don't waste your time on something that's not important. If you choose something that's not important or not significant or not useful for you or for anyone, I mean again, you will learn the research method, but you uh, uh, you will it will not be very significant or impactful. Okay, so you might lose esteem. Okay. Number two, uh, research is about novelty. So what I'm doing, uh, like we do research because we don't know. Because like as an expert, I don't know. So because I don't novelty, but be careful because this is not what we expect from you here. Like as a master student, our expectation is that you don't do like super novel research. That's not our expectation from you. Maybe from a PhD student, yes. From a postdoctor, yes. From uh, when you are working with your company and our R&D research, yes, their expectation is that you do something novel, yeah, and develop like a new product, new method, new technique, whatever. But for this course and the next course and even your master thesis, novelty is not our main emphasis, yes. So the newest of the topic might hold you interesting, but you can repeat previous research. So in this case, if you want to repeat the previous research, that's fine. In this replication, you will learn something. Don't think that, oh, I'm just getting an existing research and redoing it. I'm not going to learn anything. You will learn a lot because, first of all, when you replicate, it's not going to be the same. You will add your own, you will tailor it to your problem, have your touch or your input to it. So if you want to get like an existing research and just like replicate it, like I did this before, by the way. So, for example, not all my published research will be novel. Sometimes I will get an existing method from the literature, I will repeat it for a different like site at a different site, or I will repeat it and extend it, add like new components to it that was not part of the original method. Yeah. So don't be like if you are so don't be like if you are chasing novelty, you could fall like expecting from you. But again, research, if you have a novel research and it's impactful, like significant, that's when you publish it in the top journals. Yeah. If your research is not very novel, you will probably not be publishing in most of the uh, like top journals. Yeah. But okay, so now this is probably the most important factor that I want you to consider for this course. So again, like novelty is not the main factor for this course. This is the main factor for this course. Feasible, feasible, feasible. Make sure that what you are proposing is something that you can do. What do I mean by something you can do? You have the expertise for doing it. Like you know how to do this. Like for example, you want to develop a groundwater model for a certain site. I mean, using Mudflow. I mean, do you know Mudflow? Is this part of your expertise? Because that would be something that could have like a steep learning curve. So if that's not part of your expertise, you need to have a plan. So I will say, I will take the groundwater course where the instructor will teach me that skill. I want to do some machine learning. Again, you have this expertise. Uh, you can say, okay, I don't have this machine learning expertise, but I'm planning to take, for example, environmental data science course where I will, or other courses, or I already took a course that I have this thing. So make sure it's feasible. You have the expertise, you have the time. Make sure that whatever you're proposing is something you can do in 10 weeks. Because remember, you'll propose something this semester, you will do it in the next semester, or in your thesis, or wherever you will be doing this. Yeah. So this is just in general. Yeah. So make sure, like, for example, if you are doing this for the project course, for example, that would be, for example, in the fall or spring semester or whatever, you have like the semester is 14 weeks, but practically speaking, you only have about 10 to 12 weeks to do like this research, because you will have the other time, like will be introduction, will be writing it down, presentation time. So the actual time you have is about 10 weeks. So make sure this is just an example. So make sure that you will plan this for 2 weeks. Whatever you're proposing is something that you can do in 2 weeks. So feasibility has to do with your expertise. It has to do with time. It also has resources, available resources. So for example, I want to use hydrogeophysics, like for example, seismics, to study sea level rise in the last 1,000 years. Excellent research idea. Is it doable? Yes. Is it doable in 10 weeks? Yes, if you have the experience, like in using the software and in using the instrument. Is it feasible? Yes, except for one thing. Do we have this resource? Do we have this seismic equipment? We don't. Do you have access to this? If you don't have access to this, then that's not feasible. So again, whatever you propose, make sure that this instrument that you're going to use for taking measurement, for whatever, is something you have access to. So again, so you look at the, make sure that we have access to. So make sure you have the expertise, the time, and the access. So for example, you want to do surveys, and I want to do this survey to an interview to, I don't know, 20 different participants. Can I do 20 interviews in 10 weeks? No, that's not feasible. Instead of doing like 10 interviews, I can maybe do 10. Yeah, not 20, maybe 10. Yes, can I do 10 interviews in 10 weeks? Maybe, yes. I mean, it's a lot of work, but maybe you can do it, because if each interview is 1 hour and you schedule it like 10 hours, maybe, yes, something like this. 20 is a bit too much. Yeah, because remember, yeah. So make sure that whatever you are proposing is feasible, like in terms of time, in terms of like uh, difficulty, like your expertise, and in terms of cost. Another important factor, make sure to consult with an expert for guidance. Uh, so leverage on expertise. Why? Because if you go to an expert, somebody who knows, that will save you so much time, because maybe you want to do something, and the one who has experience, who have done this before, will just tell you the essence of it. Like, he will tell you, okay, what is doable, what's not doable, what difficulties you will find, how to manage this difficulty, what difficulties you cannot easily manage. So that's it. I cannot emphasize more how important guidance is, and that's why whatever you will uh, be proposing, you need to have guidance, and that's big part of your homework one, is how you are able to find guidance and identify like a supervisor and work with this supervisor. Again, I cannot supervise you in the topic that you will choose if it falls outside my areas of expertise. So if something related to, for example, environmental data science, I can supervise you with this. If something related to groundwater, I can supervise you with this. But if something related to wastewater management, that's totally outside my areas of expertise. I cannot supervise you with this. So you need to find a supervisor. Something related to construction management, totally outside my area of expertise. You need to find a supervisor. Without a supervisor, you could just like you will be spending so much effort, and you will not be directed and sharp, and it will finding guidance will help you to be more realistic and will help you to navigate the challenge. So you need to have guidance. Yeah. Okay. So that's consult with an expert for guidance. Yeah. So leverage on expertise, topic expert, advisor, course instructor for insight and refine your research. So that's again, this is very general slides depending on context, but you need to have yeah, a supervisor. Yeah. And again, the course instructor, whether me, whether somebody else in the future, he will, at least I'm speaking for myself, I cannot help you if that's something falls outside my area of expertise. You come to me and tell me I want to do, I don't know, something about whatever, yeah, electrical workers in the construction industry. That's something that's totally beyond my expertise. Yeah. Okay. Uh, Now it needs to be ethical. Whatever you study, it needs to be ethical, and we will have one complete lessons about this, about ethics in research. So we'll discuss this in detail later on. But just in summary, whatever you will doing, you can, it needs to be ethical. So for example, you cannot you want to study, like do a tracer test. You cannot intentionally like contaminate groundwater to observe the effect on local community health, for example. Like not, sorry, not tracer test. Like you want to do tracer test, for example, and you insert like salt, for example, which you know that could contaminate the soil. Don't do it, yeah, unless there is a need for it. Or you want to see like the intentional contamination of groundwater, you observe its effect on local community health. That's unethical. You cannot do this. So you cannot harm human health or damage the environment or violate uh, violation of consent or lack of justifiable benefits. And we will have like a whole lesson about this. Personal interest, that's the most important thing actually. That's very important, is that like you do something that you like. So if I can give you an advice, that would be my advice for you in this course. Work on something that you like. I think that's my second advice so far. My first advice, don't waste your time on something that's not important. My second advice, work on something that you like. Work on something that you're interested in. Follow your interest. That would be like my second advice, because I did I mean, did I take by this advice all the time? Not necessarily, because sometimes you're just working and this work you have to do, and you have a certain project and somebody asks you, you need to do this. I did this a lot, maybe most of the time, I would say. But sometimes, if you, especially in this context, if you have something of your personal interest, try to follow your personal interest. Because from my personal experience, when I work on something of my personal interest, then I have this natural curiosity and natural zeal, or whatever you call it, for learning. Yeah, and you keep reading and learning, and you want, and you cannot just have enough of it, and you keep reading more and more and learning more and more. So if something is that you that's, that can steer your interest and your curiosity and your interest about, that would be like my advice to you. Yeah. So for example, another thing that could be of your personal interest would be something that would align with your career goal. So that could also be part of your personal interest, something that align with your career goals. Yeah. Okay. So I'm done with the important things. This is just some refinement. Ensure you focus a scope that is not too broad or too narrow. So that is important. Like consider the scope of your topic. Again, you only have 10 weeks to implement this. So make sure that this is something that you can do in 10 weeks. That's one thing. But also make sure that this is something significant. Like if you have something that is too broad, you might not be able to manage it. And if you have something that's too narrow, that might not be even research, because research is about generalization. It's not about narrowing. So make sure that what you have is not something that's too broad that you cannot manage, too broad, too much information, and you'll struggle research. Let me give you an example. Like you can, what do you mean by this? A better would be impact of an urban water conservation policy on residential water use in Estero. That's now much better because why? Now it's not too broad. It's narrow enough to be able to study it, and we will get to this later. I'm looking at urban water, not industrial water. I'm looking at water conservation policy, like a specific policy on residential water use, and I have like a specific location. If something too narrow, groundwater nitrate levels at my well in Estero during 2024. I mean, this is not research. Who cares? Who cares about the nitrate level in your private well in during like this one? But this is something that, so this is not research. This is just some data collection for whatever purpose you are looking for. But for research, that would be, because remember, research is about generalization. Trends in groundwater nitrate contamination in residential well across Estero over the past decade. Yeah, so that is like you're looking for nitrate contamination in residential well across Estero over the past decade. And for example, for something like this, can I do this in 10 weeks? Yes, you can do this in 10 weeks if this data is available, because sometimes you don't need to collect the data yourself. It does not need to be primary data, it could be secondary data. So you go to the Water Atlas of Florida, you collect this data for the last 10 years, for example, and then you analyze it. Yeah, so if this data is available, then yes, you can do this in 10 weeks, even less than 10 weeks. Uh, I mean, if you have experience, you can do this in a week. Yeah, just go. It will take you like 1 hour maybe to collect this data from the Water Atlas, and if you know some AI and Python, you can do this. And actually, you can do this in 1 day. Yeah, this analysis if the data is available. If the data is not available, then you need to wait like 10 years to collect it. Yeah, so, uh, so it's not doable. Yeah. Okay. So last but not least, and which we will talk about in detail later, is make sure that your research question is like researchable. So make sure that whatever you're doing is researchable, and I will talk about this later in detail. Okay. Research question, researchable means that, and we will talk about the research question later and what is a researchable and non-researchable research question. But before we do this, before we make this transition and talk about research question and what's researchable and what's not researchable, let me just summarize this because this is important. So when you when I start, like when you start doing research, you usually look at three things. You look at the impact, who will this impact and how big will be this impact of this research. You look at the novelty. Is this something new or this has been done before? If this has been done before, publication in impactful journal, then you probably will not do it. Yeah, but you can redo it again, as I mentioned, for other reasons. Yeah, so you look at novelty and then you look at feasibility. So for this course, let me ask you, what is the most important out of these three? I mean, this course and the project course, and even like your master thesis. What is important? Is it novelty? Is it impact? Or is it feasibility? Like feasibility, importance, or novelty? The most important thing for this course is feasibility. That's what we care about. So the important part. Uh, where is this? Here we go. That's the most. That's we want you to do something that has high feasibility, whether it has a low, like whether it's important or not important. So I'm not like you're not gonna get a low grade because what you're doing is not important. So the most important, whether it's, but I highly recommend that you do something impactful, something important, because you don't want to waste your time. But you're not gonna lose grade if what you're doing is not important. Novelty, do we care about novelty in this course? No. If you are doing some novel research, I mean, let's say you're not going to lose grade because your research is not novel. So you're not going to lose grades because you are at low or high novel, but you will probably fail this course if your research is not feasible. Not this course, the next course, and probably your grade in this course will not gonna be good, and you will because your research is not feasible. It's something you cannot do. Yeah. So that's basically what we care about, like feasibility. The best research would be, of course, here, impactful, novel, and feasible. So to be somewhere here, that would be the best research. So again, what is our expectation? You seek guidance. That's what we expect from you. You seek guidance. You find a faculty member and you work as a team. And then you identify and execute like a feasible, of course, ethical, and research that is of your interest. So that's basically the summary of this. Okay, so let's go now to like once you identify a topic, like you come up with a research question. So let's go to a research question. What is a researchable versus a non-researchable question? So here I will show you like, should I put my youngster in a preschool? This is not researchable. Here would be a researchable one. Do children enrolled in preschool develop better social skills than children not enrolled? Now, this is something I can research. This is something I cannot research. Let's look at another example. What is the best way to learn to read? How can you research something like this? Now, this is reduce phonics to children age 5, 6, or 7. Now, this is something I can research. I could have like 3 different groups, 5, 6, and 7, and then I can do my experiment and collect my result. This is something I cannot research. Let's look at another example. Are some people born bad? How can you research something like this? What do you think would be a researchable question for it? Who commits more crimes, poor people or rich people? That is something I could research. This is something I cannot research. This is researchable. So this is not researchable. This is researchable. Yeah. So uh, to write a clear research question, as you notice, like in this previous example, don't use words that are open for interpretation. So, for example, teacher-centered classroom instead of like humanistic approach. Efficient water use, not sustainable, for example, water use. Be very specific. High school teacher, not like educators, for example. Urban residence water consumption, not water usage. See here, I'm very specific. Urban resident water consumption. It's measurable. End of course test score, not learning. I will measure learning. Well, how can you measure learning? But end of course test score, that's something measurable. Dairy per capita water consumption versus water conservation effectiveness. I will like just show you like this is just like I'm not gonna go through this because I don't want this to be long, but I will just show you one example and I want you to do the rest. Yeah. So here is climate change bad for water resources. That's not researchable. So I want you to think what would be a researchable question and why this would be researchable. So here why this is not researchable is too broad and subjective. That's why this is not researchable. What would be a researchable question? How does projected climate change on the low and high emission scenario impact groundwater recharge rate in South Florida versus North Florida? So now I will see, is climate change bad for water resources? Recharge. So in some areas, I will see that you'll get more recharge, in other area you'll get like less recharge. And then I will take it from there. And then I will know like I will be able to. This is something I can research. This is something I cannot research now. This one is specific. It's measurable. Why? Because I'm looking at specific. I'm looking at like 2 scenario, low and high emission scenario. It is measurable. I'm looking at like recharge rates. It is specific. I'm looking at like South Florida versus North Florida, specific region and like aspect. Yeah. Now, here's another one. What is the best way to solve water crisis? Yeah. So I want you to think of like why this is not researchable, because this is like vague and subjective. Yeah. So I want you to think of a researchable question and see like that would be like, so here So I will just show you the answer, but just think about it, yeah? And that's like, what are the potential benefit and drawback of implementing rainwater harvesting system in urban area to mitigate the impact of drought? This is a specific solution. So rainwater harvesting and measurable impact. Uh, uh, urban, like it's a measurable impact. What are the potential benefit and drawback? So I'm saying like the benefits and drawback. So and on impacts of drought, like how can this mitigate drought? Yeah. So here is another one. Should we build more dams, for example? So think of a researchable question. Again, I'm not going to go through all these examples. You just pause the video, think of one, and then try to read these answers. So here's another one. What is the best way to ensure clean water to protect children mental health, for example? This is actually a project that I'm currently working on. It's two products affect the concentration of this type of pesticide in the shallow aquifer in Immokalee, for example. Uh, so you can here again you can just read this. So the first one, this is broad and idealistic. This one is like specific, measurable, focus. Here I have more example for construction management student. Is brief application good for construction? Again, think over research. Like why this is not, this is like too broad and subjective, and here is an example of a researchable question. Here is another one for you. What is the best way to make construction sites safer? Now think of a researchable question. This is like vague and idealistic. So here is a question, for example. So again, pause this video, read these answers, yeah? What should construction company adopt green building practice, for example? So again, this is based on opinion and values versus what is the impact of achieving lead certification on initial construction cost versus the long-term operation cost for commercial building. Okay. Again, like just pause the video and read this and contemplate about it. How can we solve the affordable housing crisis with construction? Again, this is too broad social, this is a societal problem. This is not like a research question or an engineering project, but how does using modular construction technique affect the final cost per square foot for affordable housing project in Collier County, Florida? Again, this is specific method, location, and measurable. Okay. So again, pause this. So in conclusion, a smart way for formulate a research question. It should be specific, clearly focus on a particular aspect. It should be measurable, investigate through data collection and analysis. Could be attainable, something feasible with time, resources, and data constraint. Relevant, address key issue within the field. Something important, something contribute to new insight to existing research. So it's called like SMART. So again, when you formulate like your research question, make sure that it's SMART: specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, like transformative. Relevant and transformative novel. Yeah. Okay, now let me here like shift gears and how to go the process from like a research topic to a research question. So how to find like a topic to research. So again, this is real world, like what is needed, the literature, what is already known, and expert who knows what is important and feasible. So basically, that's like how to find a research project and idea. And we talked about this in the lesson one. So please go to this website and you will find, for example, some faculty projects that you can select from. So again, let me repeat this. So I said this already in lesson one, but I will say it again. The easiest thing is that you choose a project that you are currently working on in your company, because, or any project that you are currently working on, because it's something you are familiar with and then you would be shooting two birds with 1 hours a week or whatever, how many hours you are spending on this, and you will be also doing this for your coursework. So you'll be shooting two birds with one stone. So that is my first advice to you. Choose something, choose a topic that you are already familiar with and you are currently working on. If that is not possible, my second advice for you will be select one of these topic for the faculty, research project for the faculty, because you will get an advisor and he will it it's something important, something significant, something feasible, and you will get guidance. Yeah. Or you can just go to an advisor, like your supervisor, like a research supervisor, and tell him, this is what I want to do. Can you help me? Can you help me to find something? Yeah. The third thing would be literature, but that is can be time consuming. Is it doable? Yes, I had some student who did it, but it's a lot of work and you need to be very clever and very smart. But it would be a lot of work, but it's doable. So number one, this would be my first recommendation for you. Number two, select one of the research project by the faculties or go to the faculty and try to come up with a research project together. And number three is like you check the literature. Yeah. And you can go this like I showed you this in lesson one. Yeah. Okay, now once you identify like a research problem, like you identify a broad areas that interest you, you read the literature, you narrow it down to two or three topics, for example. You thoroughly examine the literature of these two or three topics, and then you select a single problem from these two or three topics. So let me show you an example, like something I did in real life. This example, you might not be able to understand everything from it because you are not familiar with my research and you might not be familiar with this topic, but important. What is important is I just want you to show you this process, like how I was able to identify, like I had a broad topic, how I was able to starting from something very broad topics that I have to all the way to here. So let me show you this example. So I, I, I just got a project, and this project was to use Earth system modeling. When I started this project, I didn't know what are Earth system. I heard of Earth system model, but I didn't know them in detail. I never used them, and I didn't know what red tide is. Yeah. So two new things. So how could I approach something like this? Something I don't know what's an Earth system model, and I don't know what a red tide. So obviously, like to approach something like this, uh, you just learn about what is Earth system model. So you learn what is Earth system model, and you learn red tide. And the idea here was to use because an Earth system red tide that has many factor, and some of these factors are global teleconnection, like African Saharan dust, for example, like loop current, which is connected to the jet stream, which is a global ocean current, for example. So if you use an Earth system model and you just harmful algae plume called Carenia brevis. So if you put this functional group to this Earth system model, then can we like simulate like red tide using an Earth system model? So that basically was the idea. But when I started learning about Earth system model, uh, is it doable? Yes, because I can do all this coupling. I can couple like the rivers with the land, with the ocean, with the atmosphere. So theoretically, the Earth system model is doing this, but develop it not in the current version of Earth system model. So with the current version of Earth system model, I can see MIP6 in the land and the ocean. So you see everything here in dashed lines, that would be in anything here with solid lines, that's like current coupling. So there's a coupling between like ocean and the atmosphere, but there's no coupling or coastal processes. That's like everything a dashed line here. You see like this dashed line, like this dashed line here, this dashed line here. These are future perspective. So basically, this means that I cannot use like our original idea for this project. It was an NSF funding project, by the way. We cannot do it. And by the way, when we submitted this project and we got funded, we that was kind of this is called uh, It's not rapid. It's called eager. It's an eager project. Means like high risk, high impact. High risk means it's like we are exploring very new ideas that no one ever thought of, but so that's why it's high impact. But it's high risk because it could fail. Like this idea could fail, so, which is obviously here. So I found that what we wanted to do is not possible because the current generation model does not include this coupling. Yeah. So what we do, like we stop working on this project and go do something else? No, no, you just keep learning. Yeah. So that's basically what I did do. Like I identified a broad area of interest to me. Can we use Earth system model like E3SM can be used to manage environmental problem like red tide at regional scale with monthly time scale? Is this doable? So that was the project idea or initial research question or what we wanted to do. Then I started reading literature about red tide driver and red tide modeling, reading literature about Earth system model, and then I found that this is not doable. Like we cannot add red tide as a functional group to an Earth system model. So as a process of interest to an Earth system model, we find that this is not feasible. Mechanistic modeling using outputs of an Earth system model. Another thing I can do, if I cannot add like the red tide directly to an Earth system model, I can take the output of an Earth system model, like loop currents, for example, like whatever, the precipitation, like ocean temperature, like, and add it to use it for a mechanistic model. So maybe I can do this. Another thing was use machine learning outputs of an Earth system model. So I use the Earth system model and I put it to a machine learning. So I studied this. I found that this is time consuming. Like our project is 2 years, that will take more than 2 years, and this high risk also. And it's not novel. But I found that this after is the best idea to follow actually. I can take the output of the Earth system model, I can put it to a machine learning model, and then I can achieve my project objective. Like I can answer like this broad like question here. Okay, so now thoroughly examined like the literature of these three topics. Not possible with current generation of Earth system model, as I mentioned. Not feasible for the project time. I already mentioned this, so these two are wrong. And many drivers can be easily incorporated. So I find, oh, this is the best idea to go with. So now step 5, select a single problem was and refine my research question. Can we validate Earth system model output at a regional scale to reliably use them as an input for a machine learning model? So now you see here I'm starting from this very general topic to a more refined like research question after like zeroing in. So now this is my new like refined research question. Again, you might not understand all these details because you might not be familiar with this topic. You might not have like a modeling background. That's fine, but I just want you details. The important here is not details. The important here is that you see the thought process and how you can just go from something very general to something like this more specific. So now, can we validate the Earth system model output at a regional scale to reliably use them as an input for machine learning model? Way too general and broad. Like it's much better. Like it's much better than what I have here, but still like way too general and too broad. Yeah. Okay. So now what you do is that like you refine the research problem, like you size it, like you make it more sizable and more specific, more smart. Remember, specific, more specific. So generally, this means reducing the scope of the topic that you might be expected. Because like look at this topic, like here, can we validate the outputs? What are these outputs? And like what are these outputs and exactly how do you want to validate them? So now we can just like graduate student often select, that's a common mistake for graduate students, they select topics as too broad, they cannot narrow it down. But now here, let's narrow down. Can we validate the sea surface height output of an Earth system model at a regional scale to reliably use this data as an input to a machine learning model? This is a specific scope. This specific scope better suits the time frame of our project because now we are not looking at many outputs, we are just looking at one, like sea level height. And we learned that this is one of the main driver of red tide. So now, can we get this driver from an Earth system model and validate it so that we can later use it for uh, red tide? Yeah. So now we're able to reduce the scope to something specific, sea surface height, just one output, and now we do like clarifications. The research problem need to be rewarded so that it's stated clearly and unambiguously. The matter to be investigated, the variables to be investigated, the participant, if any, that will be involved. So now here is a much better research question. Can Again, if you don't understand these details, the details are not important. The important here is I just want you to see the process. Can a pre-screening based subset selection? So now you see here, I'm not in the previous versions, it was can we validate whatever. Now here I'm not saying can we validate, I'm just very specific. Pre-screening based subset selection, specific validation method, improve the ensemble prediction of Earth system models. So now I'm not talking about one Earth system model, but ensemble predictions. This means like multiple models of sea surface height, ensuring reliability of this data as an input for machine learning model. Now we have a researchable questions that we can do more focused literature review to refine. So now this is something very specific, like pre-screening based, like I selected the validation method. Again, if you don't understand what does this mean, it's not important. And I'm looking at an ensemble, like pre-screening based for an ensemble predictions. This is all one thing. So if you don't understand like all this part, that's not important. Here I'm selecting one variable only, sea surface height, and then I want to see will this be reliable to input it as for a machine learning model. You can also like have a hypothesis. Uh, you don't need like to have a hypothesis for this, but you can also have a hypothesis, like a series of research question or one or more hypotheses both, or so you can have a research question, you can have a hypothesis, or you can have both research question and a hypothesis. Such each such question and hypothesis orient the study and add cohesiveness and are essential in helping to solve the problems. You can have a hypothesis or a research question or both, but you need one of them, and that will basically guide your research. Yeah. Results, for example, like the results of this research is that here's the hypothesis, for example, positive and negative sea surface height difference indicate loop current in the north and south position with the northern loop current needed for red tide. So this is our hypothesis. So this is something called loop current, which is a warm ocean current. And basically we're saying when this loop current is in this location, like it's go inside the Gulf of Mexico and loop inside the Gulf of Mexico, then this is a necessary condition for red tide to occur. So if the loop current is looping inside the Gulf of Mexico, red tide may occur or may not occur. If the loop current is in this position, not inside the Gulf of Mexico, then red tide will not occur. That's our hypothesis, yeah? So can we validate this hypothesis? Yes. So basically, you see, like we are looking here for, so negative ZOS, this means refer to this thing when like the loop current is outside the Gulf of Mexico. So that would be this guy here, that would be this guy here, that would be this guy here, here, like all this negative. The positive ones, that's when the loop current is inside the Gulf of Mexico. These are the positive one here. And our hypothesis is that when this one is in the south positions, there is no red tide. And then we can see red tide events is all green. So red means that there is red tide event, green means there's no tide event. And you see here when it's in this position, there is no red tide. Yeah. And we want to validate this. So this based on observation data. Can we reproduce this from an Earth system model ensemble? Yes. Because you see like here we get a very similar ratio for loop current south and loop current north. Yeah. So we were able to validate it, and then that we will use this as an input to machine learning to be able to predict red tide with other variables like total nitrogen and total phosphorus, for example, ocean temperature, speed and direction, which we'll get from us. Able to become very specific. We started by based subset selection, improve ensemble prediction of Earth system model for loop current, north and south ratio. See, now this is even much more focused. Loop current north and south ratio, like the ratio between loop current when it's in the north position versus when it is in the south position. So this is in the north position, here is the south position. So you see, can a pre-screening based subset selection improve in sample prediction of Earth system model loop current north south ratio, ensuring the reliability of this data as an input for machine learning for model for red tide prediction. So this is a specific, it's measurable, it's attainable, it's relevant, and it's transformative, it's novel. Okay, so you see how I was able to start from something very, very specific. Can Earth system model be used to manage environmental probe something to a research question? How can pre-screening based subset selection improve the ensemble prediction of a loop current north and south ratio, ensuring reliability of this data as an input to machine learning for red tide prediction? Okay, so I was able to start from research topic like something like here to a research question, something like here. Okay, and you see how I got through all this thing. Again, the details here is not important at all. If you don't understand like this example, that's fine. I just wanted to give you a real life example in a real life project, a good project, an NSF project to show you like the thinking process, like how you can start from something you don't know anything about to something that's very specific, very doable, very attainable, and very feasible. And we were able to, we from this research, like your initial, because as I told you of our initial finding, but we ended up with three publication. Not only we ended up with three publication, we ended up with a follow-up NSF research that we also got to complete our machine learning method and to extend like this understanding. So not only like we were able to succeed and do some publication, but we even got a second funding from NSF, and this second funding is the current funding. We're looking also for graduate student to work on this project. If you're interested in this project, also let me know. Okay, now here we go. So this is what I want you to do. Choose a research topic of interest and have a conversation with Gen AI. I mean, by the way, like this process, it took several months to reach from all these understanding. It took, I don't know, I don't honestly remember how many months it took, maybe from 3 to 6 months to learn all this. So you cannot, so, but what exercise? Choose a research topic of your interest and has a conversation with Gen AI, like ChatGPT, Gemini, whichever one you use to identify research problem. If you have never used Gen AI before, uh, let me know and I can provide you with some guidance on how to use this. Identify a research problem, refine it until you have a research question that is feasible, significant, and ethical. And then share your experience with your classmate, including your topic, problem, and question. Reflect on what guidance you would need to pursue this research and what qualities you would look for a potential supervisor. So answer this question. Yeah. Again, this is just for fun, and just for fun. I just want you to get into this process, just to repeat what you have seen in this class. Yeah. So I think that's all for this lesson, and like see you in the next lesson.